Yo, it's Frandere, back at it again. Today we're talking about one of my favorite isekai, one of my favorite comedies, Konosuba. So imagine this. It's 2016, you're looking for a new anime to binge, you know, something that's maybe 12 episodes, is going to last you about 6 hours, you know, and you find this one anime called Konosuba, you know. Before all of that, let me just say the whole isekai thing, the whole meme or the whole isekai becoming its own genre, like the this Konosuba is before that. Obviously, isekais existed before Konosuba because Konosuba itself is a parody of isekai. Zero no Tsukaima and of course Sao, they were way before like this isekai became its own thing, its own genre, its own meme. At first glance, doesn't look like anything special, doesn't look like anything unique, but it still catches your attention. You're still like, I'll give it a try. And then you realize you end up finding one of like the funniest, goofiest isekais. The cast is just perfect. Fukushima Jun as Kazuma, Amamiya Sora as Aqua, Takahashi Rie as Megumin, and Kayano Ai as Darkness. If you didn't know, the cast was allowed some freedom to improvise or ad lib. So some examples are Kazuma's "Hi, Kazuma des." When one of the characters is calling for him, like they go Kazuma, Kazuma, and then he goes "Hi, Kazuma des." Like that was uh June's idea. He like he just did that on the spot, and they thought it was funny, and they just kept it. Same thing with Rieri making Megumin's explosion chant. So the whole long chant before Megumin casts her explosion, Rieri wrote those herself. And there's a whole video on YouTube about Rieri, about her um as her career, how she became a Seiyu, her life. And I think it's a really good video. You should go watch it. If you especially if you really like Rieri. But yeah, those are some examples of them improvising or giving some ad libs, which helped just add to how funny the anime is because they get to mess around more with the script a bit. Konosuba at this point, 3 seasons, one movie. They just announced the fourth season a couple of days ago. The the 3 seasons and the movie, they cover 6 volumes of 17. Nowadays, you get a lot more. We're getting a lot more full adaptation. Something like, for example, Mushoku Tensei feels like it might get a full adaptation. They revived Data Live. Back in the day, you used to get a lot of these adaptations that were basically just promotion for the manga. So you would get like one season, and the ending would be go read the manga now. Something, for example, Seiretsukai no Blade Dance. I remember I really liked that anime. The ending is basically go read the manga. And, it's been years. With the announcement of the fourth season, it is also the fourth time Konosuba has changed studios. The first and second season were handled by Studio Dean. The movie was JC Staff. The third season was Studio Drive, and the fourth season is going to be Studio Engi. The Megumin spin-off, by the way, it was also done by Studio Drive. But I'll talk about that in a bit. If you ask me what the best seasons have been, I'd say it was the first two. You know, it could be nostalgia, a bit of nostalgia talking, but I've rewatched Konosuba when the movie came out, I rewatched the first two seasons. When the third season came out, I rewatched the first two seasons and the movie, and I've still felt the same way always. I've always felt that the first two seasons were the strongest in terms of the comedy and emotional highs. The especially the conclusion of the first and second season, the whole big fight and emotional moments, especially something that I've always liked about anime, something that the medium itself, something that I've always enjoyed about anime as an anime fan is the whole putting the opening, playing the opening when there's a big emotional moment, a power up or a big fight. That it's always just so hype. It's so good, man. It never fails to get me. And that I think that's something that makes the first and second season so memorable to me. And I think the third season suffers a bit from not having a conclusion like that, but still the movie and the third season are still they're still Konosuba. They still have good comedy moments. They still have good, just good moments in general. But in terms of the story, they do lack I personally feel like it lacks a bit compared to the first two seasons. Now, the OVAs real quick. There's, quick special episodes. One episode they just fit in a story of the cast going on some goofy adventure. They're funny, they're great. They're awesome. They're just great like extra content. But something else that actually ties into the main story is the Megumin spin-off. The Megumin spin-off, it takes place before Megumin meets the main cast. So it's in her village. And I will say I did not enjoy the Megumin spin-off as much as the main Konosuba anime. And I think it's because the the spin-off suffers from not having the main cast, that the blend of the main cast, how they mesh together so well. And of course it's because Megumin still hasn't met them yet, so of course they're not going to show up. But even if we speak about the side characters, because the Megumin spin-off, it has Megumin and Yunyun, which are both from the main in the main Konosuba anime, but the side characters from the spin-off, they just don't hit as hard as the side characters from the main Konosuba anime. So you have Eris, Wiz, and Vanir. And Vanir is like probably my favorite side character because he's so funny with the banter he has with Aqua. And Wiz is also really funny. Yunyun in the main Konosuba anime, she's very funny. And Eris, she's also really funny. Like, cause they support like the main cast, but they're funny on their by themselves. And I don't think the side characters from the spin-off hit as hard as those side characters did. I do think it's still decent on its own, but it just doesn't hit as hard. If I had to say, my favorite characters are probably Kazuma and Aqua, but Darkness is great, Megumin is great. Like I said, I really like Vanir. He's really funny. I just feel like even though I love Megumin, even though I love Rieri, I don't think they could save the the spin-off themselves. So the spin-off, maybe I'll change my mind about it in the future. Who knows? I've changed my mind about anime in the past before. Uh but we'll see. So as the making of this video, it's 2026 at this point. It's been 10 years of Konosuba. I've been following it since it started. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was in high school, man. It's crazy to think that even now, a lot of anime that I've been watching since middle school, since high school, I'm still following them. Some of them are still ongoing. I still love some of them. There's some I have changed my mind about that don't, I might not like anymore. I used to like a lot of, at that time, I used to watch a lot of harem trash. There's still some I still like. But, anyways, Konosuba, still one of my favorite comedy anime, one of my favorite isekai anime, parody anime. I can't wait for season 4 or maybe beyond that, hopefully. I hope, man, I hope we get a if we get a full adaptation, that would be great. That would be Konosuba for years to come. Sounds crazy. Imagine 10 years from now still watching Konosuba. That would be insane. But I do think the first 2 seasons, I still have them at a 10 on my Annie list. I'll probably put it up somewhere here. But yeah, tell me in the comments your favorite character, your favorite ship, favorite moment, anything you didn't like. Write a paragraph, I'll read it. With all of that said, thank you for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and that's it for me. See you later.